And Tilak, can you start the webinar now?
Yeah, I've started like it's...
Okay. So good evening, everybody, and a very warm welcome to each one of you on this very special occasion of this webinar on self-leadership, the third one in the series. And I'm so happy that today we have Aadesh Goyal with us. I first met Aadesh in 2001 when he was heading HR of Use Software, which later on was called Harrison Technologies. You know, what I discovered about Aadesh is not just that he was an absolutely wonderful and amazing leader of people and the HR function, but in those days in his company, there used to be an award given to the most appreciated leader in the company. And all the thousands of employees used to vote. And it was very fascinating that year after year, Aadesh was getting that prize till he had to tell his employees, I am disqualifying myself. I'm no longer eligible. So, you know, so it's been fascinating to watch Aadesh. And then both Aadesh and his wife Vandana, they became, you know, not only devotees of the art of living and you know, Guruji's Sri Ravi Shankar, but they became teachers of art of living. And when Grow Talent, the company that started Soil later on, when we were a startup, small organization, our entire team went to attend the training given by, you know, Vandana and the art of living folks and Aadesh. And we all became better individuals as a result of that. So thank you, Aadesh, for that. And what I've deeply admired about Aadesh is that whatever he picks up in his life, he does that with complete devotion, complete focus, and is always giving 100%. So, you know, Aadesh, so very nice to have you in this webinar. And dear illuminators, so very nice to have you as fellow panelists. When I first mooted this idea to you, I think some of you were not sure the way it will start, but I'm so glad that, you know, that this has become a reality. So, you know, thank you for doing this experiment of becoming co-panelists and sharing your learning from the self-leadership class. So why don't we first listen to what did you source as the learning from this class? And today the topic is emotional well-being. So Apeksha, let's start with you. Let's have you opening the conversation.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Yeah, so as per my learnings, what I have observed and learned in well-being is basically the experience of health, happiness, and prosperity. Having good mental health, high life satisfaction, a sense of meaning or purpose, and the ability to manage stress. However, in increasing our well-being is not always easy. We need to figure out what our parts of well-being are most important for us. It emerges from our own thoughts, actions, experiences, and most of the things which people have control over. I think people should think positive in order to have a great emotional well-being. We took an online test also to measure our scores in various aspects of well-being at the time when we were in that well-being emotional well-being session, and we have found that most of our test scores most of us scored less in stress management and resiliency, and some scored low at life purpose and self-confidence. Stress is not bad for our mental stress is not only bad for our mental health but also affects our physical health. It may arise from work, finances, relationships, and a variety of other places, but it can also come from our inside body, from illness or inflammation. Although managing stress is not always easy, but it is not complex too. All we can do is to optimize sleep, eat, and exercise. In addition to the stress management activities, we need to build up stress management skills by trying meditation, finding opportunities, and to uh, to be kind to others with compassion, gratitude, and loving kindness, which will buffer uh, uh, us against the stress. And coming to day-to-day different difficult situation faced by us, we should shift our mindset by reviewing the situation as a challenge and not as a threat. We should always think that I can do this, and if you are stronger than you think. Stress is hard on both our physical and emotional wellness. The more effectively one can cope, the more quickly he can recover and return to normal function. Next comes the life purpose. So, what is life purpose? Many of us think of the life purpose and the meaning in life as the same thing, but they are slightly different. More specifically, it's thought that the life purpose or engaging in purpose-driven behaviors is one just thing that contributes to a meaningful life. But when we have a purpose in a life, we likely feel good about the way we are living our life. We might feel that there are some ultimate reasons for our actions and that we are contributing to the world in some important way. But this gives us a sense of satisfaction and connectedness, which can help us to reach higher levels of well being. So, this is all what I have studied and learned in the well being session.
Okay.
Uh,
Thank you, Apeksha. Aruna, would you like to go next?
Thank you, sir. Sure, I will. Good evening, everyone. So today I'll be talking about the power of appreciation and the role it has in to make someone be happy or lead a very normal life. I feel from a very personal note that like it's very important to feel appreciated at work. I feel it makes people feel valued and it drives them to do their best. It also helps with being well-being and their mental health. So it really can make a difference. Also, we need to learn what we want to have, not to have what we want in order to get stable and steady happiness. So, I mean, this is totally my personal take on it. I feel appreciation improves productivity to a great extent. We as human beings, we know hard work is appreciated and recognized, and only then we feel like our work is valued. I'll share a very small story that includes me and my mother. My mother always says, like, if we do not transform our pain into something we like, we will most assuredly transmit it. She follows the saying of Gaur Gopal Das. And it goes like, if we can do something about the situation, then why do we need to worry? And if we already know that we can't do anything about the situation, then why to worry either? I felt this sentence made a lot of difference. And I can totally assure you that like I'm a happy human being after knowing the real meaning of this sentence. Um, Also, well-being emerges from our thoughts, actions, and experiences, most of which we have the control. Like if we feel the thing to be positive, we tend to have greater emotional well-being. That'll be all from my side, sir.
Thank you. What about Anshul? You are next, Anshul.
Yes, sir. So thank you for the opportunity and thank you for Aadesh sir for the time. So for in the leadership classes, we have learned that the emotional well-being is something that you can get is a state of mind when you feel high or good about yourself. So it can be anything, eating your favorite ice cream or walking your dog. So it's something very simple and quite small. So for me, this feeling cannot be quantified. But after taking the test that the Anil has given us, I can see that there is some mirror image shown in the test that I score quite low on stress. So I'm much more stressful in the time of any problematic situations. So in the test, I get that picture out of me. So and for me, when I'm stressful, there is always a person that you can rely on. For me, there is my dog. So whenever I'm stressful, I just grab him and hug him. So that's my take on it. So a little short, but that's my take.
Okay, thank you. What about Ankit?
Yes, sir. So I will be talking about the weaknesses, how to overcome weaknesses. In the ideal world, sir, we all know that we have, if you are an entrepreneur, then we must be having some good, we must be good in everything, right? but in the ideal world, and we know that there is imperfect world, we know that we have to face that we are not good at all things. And for that I would like to say that for 6 point I would like to add that first we need to accept that yes, we there are something which I am not good at it, and we have to recognize that yes, it's my weaknesses. Then second thing, talk to someone or get guidance from someone you trust. Either it may be your peers, it may be your friend, family, anyone who can whom you can trust blindly and who will support you at any cost. Third point, which I will say, hire the skills. Means you have to get that skills which you are lacking, and you have to work on that. You have to give that skill some time so that you can overcome that. And it fifth point, I will say that it just not good enough. Get that you have to do some master, or uh, you have to do something extra to get good in that way. And last thing which I want to say, that you have, when you get mastery in that, or you learn that experiences, then you have to teach others also who are weaker in that section. You have to help them to overcome those fears of weaknesses. That's
Okay,
it, sir.
wonderful. Thank you. So how about Apurv?
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity, sir. So I'll be speaking on gratitude, and this is my personal experience, like whatever we have gone through in the last one and a half year. So we often felt surrounded by negativity all around, and every day we were, bombarded by bad news when it comes to like some disease that is going to kill us, or how are we going to tackle it, or even some political news. In all the catastrophic world events. And if those weren't enough, our inboxes and on our social media feeds were always cluttered with updates, with the advertisements for products we should buy to feel happy, and all the reasons we aren't attractive, wealthy, or successful enough. So we constantly deal with negativity, yet we are really addicted to the information that is feeding our inner angst and happiness and unhappiness. But then for a while, if we turn off our television, shut down our phones, and close the lid on a computer, life wouldn't be so bad. Or would it be? I mean, I tried that myself and it felt great. But yeah, so there are things that one can be grateful for. One can feel grateful about is they can be grateful to your elders, to your parents, and your near ones and dear ones. And in positive psychology research as well, gratitude is strongly and consistently associated with greater happiness. Gratitude also helps people feel more positive emotions, relish good experiences, improve their health, and also deal with adversity and build stronger relationships. So good health is something that we can be grateful for. Good friends are very hard to find. So often the quality of friendships and not the quantity. Freedom of religion as well. Being able to worship whomever and however you want is something many people don't ever experience. So yes, having a partner as well. So if you have someone, your partners or something, someone in your life whom you can trust blindly, you can also feel grateful for them as well. People also can feel grateful for pets if they have some. And one should also, I feel this is a major part of the learning, like from the course. So one should always learn from the mistakes. So if we have ever made some mistakes, we wouldn't mind much. So it is one of those things that we should be thankful for, and we should learn from our mistakes, and we should all get an opportunity for education. So this is something that I learned from the course on emotional well-being and gratitude. That's all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Apurv. So Aadesh, now we are all eager to learn from your own experience, and your own life journey. Tell us where it all began, from your childhood, your, the early part, and then to your journey till today. We first really like to know your journey as a person and as a leader. Yes.
Sure. No, Anil, thank you very much for inviting me. And every time I hear what you say about me, I feel like a Superman. It's so amazing. So I have to meet you more often so I can feel like a Superman more often. But it's been a great friendship, and I look up to you and I've learned so many things from you. So answering question, I was born in Dehradun. Both my parents, their families were from Dehradun, and when I was 1 year old, my father moved from ONGC to Hindustan Copper Limited in a really remote place in Rajasthan called Khetri in district Jhunjhunu, and he was a mining engineer, and I did my entire schooling there. My the king of Khetri was a devotee of Swami Vivekananda. So when he passed away, he bequeathed the entire palace to the Ramakrishna Mission. And in that palace, we actually had a school. So my first school was in a palace, going to the nursery class, and stayed in Rajasthan, for good Kendra Vidyalaya, 12 years of education, and then it so happened that I got into Bits Pilani, which also was in the same district, and so I lived in really small towns. So when I moved to Delhi for my practice school before I graduated, it was like cultural space, speed, all shocks, living here, finding your roots. But it's been a great journey, I've been very lucky to work with great organizations, great people, and always had opportunities to do many, many things and learn from everyone. And over the last 35 years or so, I've been lucky to do all kinds of roles, being an executive assistant to Sam Petroda was my first job, and doing HR, doing project management, product management. I've been a CIO. I've been CO twice. I've been head of software engineering. So life has been very, very kind, and it's been great learning. And every time I do these roles, I always then go back to HR because that's what I love doing the most. And there's a certain charm about HR, and how can you really make a difference through the people? It's like an undefined job, and when you have an undefined job, then you can do it whichever way you want. So that's really the beauty, and you get a chance to work with so many people, and it's been just an amazing journey. And I've had the opportunity to work with people from all over the world. I've worked in all the 5 continents, but never moved out of India. 2-3 years ago, when my son, I was visiting him on one of my business trips on the weekend in the US, and he was curious to know how many times have you come to the US. I said about 100 times, and then he was calculating. So he calculated that I've lived in the US for 3.5 years just to travel without ever living there. So what I've found that people all over the world are the same. They're the same human beings. On the surface, what they say, what they eat, what they wear, what they think might be different, but inside everyone is really the same human being, and it's really easy to connect to people once you realize that.
Aadesh, let me turn the questions now to. I remember the time when you were with CDOT, and I remember coming and meeting Sam Petroda there. I also brought Shumantro Ghoshal there to meet Sam Petroda those days. And for the young people in this webinar, if they are not familiar with Sam Petroda, then you can say he's the father of the telecom revolution. All this that we talk about today, the person who started this whole revolution in India was Sam Petroda, when Rajiv Gandhi invited him to come back and leave his very affluent life in Chicago to move to India, and at a salary of 1 rupee a year or something like that, to build the telecom, sector in the country. And they used to have their office in Chanakapuri in that hotel there. And people used to literally sleep in the office. They were working continuously. Young people like Aadesh and his people there, it was I think the only other experience I have heard stories of that and visited in Cupertino when Apple was creating Macintosh and Steve Jobs and all those guys were creating Apple. Something similar to that was happening in CDOT, right? I'd like to understand, Aadesh, how did you source the enthusiasm and that, belief in what you were doing, and how did you all come together to give that exceptional service to the country?
Yeah. So actually, that was my first job, and I saw an advertisement in the newspaper, and I applied. And then there was like a day-long interview, 6-7 steps, and I was lucky to get in. And the energy that Sam Pitroda had created there and the leadership team there had created was just phenomenal. So it really was a missionary program that we are on a mission to transform India, to make India self-reliant in telecom, right? And and they did a really amazing job to really get people to believe in it. And once you believe in it, you start getting excited, right? That US had that there was a concept of a telephone density, right? How many telephones per 100 people? And the study showed that the higher number of phones that you have, the higher the economy, right? Developed the economy. And the US used to have 60, and if the threshold used to be 30, and India was at 0.5, right? That we are going to make India into a developed country through telecom, like that, right? So the whole thing was that the goal was like climbing Mount Everest, in a short period of time. And, you just basically joined the Pied Piper, and the Pied Piper remains powerful and strong and radiating energy, and every little accomplishment is celebrated. You're working with really amazing people like who are like your age, mostly fresh out of college or 2-3 years experience, very collegiate type of environment and culture. Everybody is on a first name basis. It doesn't matter who. That was new to India, right? Hardly anybody had air conditioned offices at that time in India. So it was actually, you felt special, and you said, hey, you're going to do something special. Like, I still feel lucky that I got that opportunity. And, that type of experience is hard to replicate. It's like being in a startup and, you're going to do something impossible, and you just land up learning through osmosis. So much is happening.
Yeah. Then I want to take you to your role in Use Software. That was also a very unique and special company. And you did some very, very special things to make everybody feel not just appreciated, but to create a sense of ownership. And I found the emotional well-being of all your colleagues was something at a really wonderful high. Can you explain as to how you co-created that with the help of your colleagues?
Yeah, so, when I joined Hughes, it was really positioned as an engineering center for the Hughes Corporation, which was headquartered in the US. This was the first time they were doing something in India, and they had a small presence in UK, but almost all of it was centric to the US. So the chairperson of the board, when I met him for the first time, he was not involved in my hiring. He came to India and he said that, let me share 3 things with you. So he said the first thing is that we have no clue about India. So you create your job is to create a great place to work and great culture, right? And the only thing you have to follow is ethics. That, we have a code of conduct, we have an ethics program, and you must incorporate that. But the rest, you don't have to worry about what happens in the headquarters. You're going to be removed from that. And the second thing that he said was that, we want to be known as a company that's great for employees, right? And the third thing he said was, never hire anybody who must not be hired. It doesn't matter what happens, right? So you have to be the gatekeeper. And then, the people that you're working with really make the difference, right? So the CEO of the company was Aadesh Sharma, who was a long-time Hughes employee. He had relocated from US to India. And, Sam Pitroda and him are 2 people to whom I send a message every Teacher's Day, that thank you for being a great teacher, because you had a great contribution to who I became later on, right, over the time. And they obviously are very people that say you give us too much credit. I said, no issue. Like, okay, you may not feel it, but I'm telling you about what I feel. And he was just an amazing person, right? I'll give you an incident. I had just joined. We went to IT Delhi for campus recruitment, and that was the first time we were doing recruitment. And he said there that in our company, this is 92 January or February, 93 January or February. He said in our company, people come first, customers second. Like, I was still new there, only 6-7 months, and I said, okay. And then, I also got into sales there while I was in HR, and we went to General Motors headquarters in Detroit, and, to talk about what business we could do with them, right? And in the company pitch, he told them that in our company, people first come, and customers next, because if people are going to be happy, they're going to make customers happy. Like, I was actually shocked that it is okay to say it in a school, right? But to say that in front of a potential customer at GM at the time was the world's largest company. And, he actually was questioned on it, and he passionately explained it. So when you work with people like that, then, the whole energy, collaboration, vision that gets created is very different. And amazing things can happen. So we put people first, and there was openness, and you just do a good job of getting out of people's way, and then people actually do actually create magic.
Very nice. Now, I want to take you also to a certain dimension of your life, which I think has made you a wonderful colleague, a wonderful person, and a wonderful leader, which is how you have taken interest in this whole movement of the spiritual dimension and art of living, and working with Guruji, Sri Ravi Shankar. Can you tell us as to how did that happen, and how did you and Vandana, your wife, get into that movement and also became teachers of art of living, and how that has helped you to source emotional well-being?
Yeah, so that, my, stumbling into art of living was actually like an accident. It was a life-changing accident. Both my father and mother had taken Diksha from the Ramakrishna mission, right? And they were followers, and the Swamiji there used to come to our house, very often, mostly on Sundays, because that's when my father would also be available. And 6-day weeks, and in the school, and for him. And then when he would come, I would just detest it, saying that he comes and waste our time, we can't do anything else, and you force us to sit there. And when he comes, he's young, but you touch his feet. I used to, like, even as a 10-year-old kid, I used to argue with my parents a lot. And so I was like against gurus when I grew up. But Vandana, who is my wife, we actually met at Seed Out interview, right? We had not known each other. She grew up in Delhi, I grew up in Rajasthan. We met for the interview, and then both of us got the job, and then we got married, and that was also, like, say, destiny, right? So somehow Vandana landed up doing art of living course out of curiosity. She was also against gurus. She had no idea about Gurudev Shri Ravi Shankar. Otherwise, she would not have gone. And she did it, and then she found out that, okay, Guruji is behind it. But she had a great experience, practicing Sudarshan Kriya. And one day she asked me she wanted to visit where Guruji was coming in a satsang. And I said, hey, I'm not going to satsang. You have got into this guru business. I don't want to get involved. But she said, okay, Sunday, I don't want to drive. It's far off in Chhatarpur. This is like, 2000, right? Chhatarpur was like very different geographical area compared to Gurgaon. So I went there as a driver, unhappy about it. But I sat in the last row. There were only 40, 50 people there. The moment Guruji came, something shifted in me. And he had not even spoken a word, right? So I landed up doing the course. And I was like so positively affected by it. We introduced this as a compulsory program for induction for new employees at Hughes Software Systems. So we had a 10-day induction program, 3 days for this. 1 day was for employee shape, like that, right? And over 4.5 years, 2,500 people did that. And I still find when I travel around the world, people say, we did the Art of Living course and that was really good. We kept on. So basically what it really helped me to do is that, the things that we normally are aware about, they're actually just a surface, right? It's, less than what is visible in an iceberg. So it really helped me to get insights into who we are, right? And there is something deeper there. And I became a student and, I practice daily. I still practice daily. And I know, Anil, for so many years, you were practicing daily. Even before taking a 6 o'clock flight, you would get up at 4 a.m. and do it. And it has been life-changing for me. And, I've actually, people say that, how many 2 a.m. friends do you have, right? So I said, hey, I may be having 200 or 300 2 a.m. friends in perhaps 50, 60 cities around the world, including India, because it has, really expanded my friendship. I've always had, very, very good friends. But through this, number of my friends has multiplied. And when you start serving, doing some service, I think the joy that you feel at that time is unparalleled. So it becomes a bit like addiction. And I think it's a good addiction. And it's been a great foray. It's been life-changing for us. And, the type of jobs that I have done, which, operations spread, like, for example, my current job, we have 12,500 employees in 40 countries. And something or other is happening anywhere, right? All the time. And, pre-pandemic, I was traveling 50% of my time. And how do you maintain your sanity and happiness in a situation like that is something that I learned from my foray into Art of Living by doing the Art of Living course and the Sudarshan Kriya. And in fact, I wanted to, if we have 5 minutes, I wanted to do an experiment with everyone on that. Anil, do we have time for that?
Sure, please go ahead.
Okay. So see, many of the panelists today talked about stress, right? But have you wondered where does stress come from? Yeah. So let's talk about one major source of stress, right? But before that, let's understand our mind, right? Our mind is full of thoughts all the time. And we become aware of a thought only when the thought has come. Yeah. You actually have no control over your thoughts. And, in a day, we get about 5 lakh thoughts. A lot of them we are not even aware of. Now, if you notice carefully, a lot of these thoughts are related to the past. Why did I get angry on this person? I was so rude. How dare that person call me like that, talk to me like that, right? So incidents that are related to the past generate certain negative emotions like guilt, anger, sadness, disgust. And then many thoughts are related to the future. Like, okay, am I going to get a good grade? One of my best friends is sick. I hope nothing bad happens. Or you may be stuck in a line to go to the airport, right? Traffic jam. I hope I don't miss a flight. It could be as simple as that, right? So the thoughts that are related to the future generate another set of negative emotions, like fear, like loneliness, worry, anxiety. And as more and more thoughts come without a permission, our mind is fluctuating like a pendulum, generating these negative emotions. Yeah. If you really pay attention to this, that is really the sole cause of stress. Yeah. So next time you feel stress, think about what is the underlying thing. Either it is something related to the past that has happened, nothing you can do about it, but we still get stressed about it. Or it's about the future, We are anticipating something or anticipating that is going to happen or not happen. We don't know whether it's going to happen or not, but it creates fear, worry, anxiety in us, which causes stress. Yeah. But thoughts, don't take a permission, right? They don't come. They just come just like that. They just show up, right? So let's do a quick experiment. Yeah. Let's close our eyes. Now you can think of anything other than a blue monkey jumping on a tree. Think of anything other than a blue monkey jumping on a tree. And you may open your eyes. So what did you think about? What was in your mind? Maybe the panelists can share what happened. Anyone?
So once you told about the blue monkey jumping on a tree, the first instance that came to my mind was a blue monkey that's jumping on a tree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So see, that's the nature of the mind. Whatever you resist will persist. Yeah. So how do we now, manage the stress, right? So for that we do a quick, 1 minute, 2 minute experiment, right? So let's close our eyes and, and this is for all the people, including the panelists and the participants, just get up a little bit, take your hips back into the chair and, that'll make your back straight. Take your hands, put it in the lap. Let's close our eyes and a big smile on the face. Take a deep breath in, hold it, and very gently and slowly, gradually release it. Long release. With a smile, big smile on your face. Just take another deep breath in, hold it. And as you breathe out this time, make this sound from the mouth. Your eyes are closed. And start taking long, deep breaths in together. Let's take a long, deep breath in and long, deep breath out. Let's keep taking long, deep breaths in and out. Smile on the face. Remember, it takes only 5 muscles to smile and 17 to frown. Long, deep breaths in and out. Now, as you're taking the deep breath in, take your attention to your nostrils. Watch the breath coming in from the nostril and watch the breath going out from the nostrils. Breathe in. Watch the breath coming in from the nostrils. And as you breathe out, watch the breath going out from the nostrils. Long, deep breaths in and out. And if you realize that your mind's gone away somewhere, bring it back to the nostril. Bring it back to the breath and the nostril. Let's keep taking long, deep breaths in and out. As you breathe in now, notice the temperature of the breath. Is it cold? Is it warm? Is it somewhere in between? And as you breathe out, notice the volume of the breath. Is it high? Is it low? Or somewhere in between? Long, deep breaths in and out. And if you lose track, no worries, with a smile, bring your attention to the breath. Relax. You may breathe normally now. And whenever you feel complete, you may open your eyes. So it is good. So may I request everyone to, share through the chat, the panelists and the participants, how is your mind right now? How are you feeling? Quickly, so we can do parallel processing, concurrent processing. We can hear from everyone together.
You may please put your comments in the chat box.
Yes, Anil, thank you. Chat box. So relaxed, calm and peaceful, calm, less number of thoughts, relieved and relaxed, calm, relaxed, peaceful. The mind is relaxed, calm, relaxed. Thank you for sharing. I request everyone to share. Calm and relaxed. Yeah, we'll wait for 2-3 more comments. Relax with a thumbs up. Peaceful. Great. No, thank you for sharing, doing this experiment and sharing your comments, one more relaxed. So when you are calm, peaceful, relaxed, those are the 3 most common, outputs, words, that experiences that people have shared. Can you feel stressed? No, right? Either the stress can be there or these things can be there. Yeah. So what happened? This is the ancient secret of breath that, the saints in India knew. That when you take your attention to the breath, the mind gets out of the past, gets out of the future, and comes into the present. And in the present, there is no stress, there is no problem. Yeah. No negative emotions. We are breathing all the time, right? The first act that we did when we were born was to take a deep breath in. And 100 years later, when it's time for us to go, we'll breathe out. We are always breathing, right? My Apple Watch says 16 breaths a minute. Now, that many breaths. But it doesn't work for stress, for relaxation, if you're not aware of your breath, right? So just like a kite, the nature of the kite is to go here and there in the sky. And the experienced kite players, they can keep the kite where they want to be by tugging on the thread. Yes or no? Right? Those of you who have flown the kite. So our mind is like a kite. Its nature is to wander. And the thread is really the breath. So there's this deep emotion, breath and mind connection, which is very simple. And Anil asked me that what's been changing. For me, I had no idea about this. And this is just a small thing. It just happened in 2 minutes, right? And look at what difference it can make. Yeah. So not many schools talk about emotional well-being, right? They will talk about it as a subject in which you have to grade yourself. Emotional well-being is more often than talked about as something that you can become more intelligent so that you can deal with others better, right? That I think is really not using emotional intelligence intelligently. its real application is for yourself, right? If you can become emotionally intelligent, your life will change, and I love the topic of self-leadership, right? I often talk about it. A few weeks back, I did a Google search on leadership. There were 2.9 billion hits. And then leadership, if you really see, it's about strategy, about execution, it's about many other things, about, getting stuff done, yourself and with other people. And self-leadership, there were only 8 million hits, 8.4 some million hits. One by 3,000 of leadership. So self-leadership is really, that can really change your life. And I think it comes before leadership. If you're good on self-leadership, you will become also a good leader for others. So I'm so glad that Soil is really teaching a program like this. And I'm sure you're going to benefit from this a lot. Sorry, Anil, that took a little bit more time, but back to you.
No, thank you, Aadesh. Thank you very much. Now the questions are being asked from the audience. So audience, please ask questions. And the first question is from Rakesh Jinsi, who is an ex-colleague. He was also incidentally president of Soil. He is currently the chair of SOS in India. So SOS Children's Village, so several schools, and of course hundreds of communities. And Rakesh, at the age of 50, decided to give up a flourishing CEO's role to serve people. So he's asking this question: in the current environment of work from home, work processes and employee relationships, etc., are changing. How do you see the role of HR in this new environment?
Yeah. So, this has been a very big, forced, long experiment, which has really changed the paradigms. And it created a new way of thinking, right? Things that we didn't think were important have become more important now, like well-being, right? I think what we have learned through this is, 4 things. I think the first thing is the pandemic has really helped create better, closer relationships amongst, peers, amongst teams, and, a manager and a leader has a great role to play in that, to be a role model, to be a catalyst, and to really create the malleability and momentum so that, they can be more deeper, more meaningful relationships. And I'll talk about the role of HR, at the end. I think the second thing is well-being has come to the fore. It's not something that the amount of stress it created, because of the common enemy, and because we were all holed up and we were doing more things than we were ever doing before, especially people who had children or parents at home, and, really juggling every responsibility without much help and support from anybody else, because everybody was holed up at their homes. And well-being has come to the fore. So I think that's the second thing. I think the third thing is digitization, I think, has perhaps accelerated by 5 to 10 years, right? I think you wouldn't know anybody who cannot now do a video call, right? Not just click on a link to join, but even initiate it. Even people who are using their phones, like, only to make calls or receive calls or read SMSs, they're like doing this stuff now. And, when digitization happens, the possibilities multiply, right? And the example that I'll give you is we built a Tata Communications Learning Academy. We launched it in March 2017. At that time, we had April 2017, in March, the year that finished, that year, the average learning days per employee per year were 3.5. And 90% of the learning days were delivered in person, right? So we launched the Digital Tata Communication Learning Academy in April 2017. And in just 2 years, in 3 years, in, March 2020, before the pandemic began, the learning per employee per year had more than doubled to 7.5 days. And 90% of it delivered digitally, pre-pandemic. Now, during the 1 year of pandemic, which finished in March this year, obviously the learning went from 90 to 100%, right? Everything digital, so nothing in person. But the training days increased further by 40% to 9.4 days of learning per employee per year, right? So now people are learning wherever they are, right? So people are actually learning on weekends now. People are learning while they're at the airport. People are learning when they're commuting. So digitization is not just about automating process. It's about creating a platform, creating an excellent, intelligent product with consumer grade experience that can just create much, much, much better outcomes. So I think digitization is the third one. And the fourth one is, how do you now deal with much more global setting, right? And virtual setting, right? So gone are the days where you can say that, hey, I need this person in my team only in this location, and otherwise the work can't happen. We have all been proven wrong that the work can happen anywhere. Of course, there is nothing like proximity and in person. That creates a different type of magic, but a lot of work can actually be done virtually. So it's going to be leading to much, much bigger changes. Now, as all these are people related stuff, and HR has really the leading role to play in this. So the role of HR has significantly shifted. HR needs to be much more tech savvy now than it used to be, not just as a user, but as somebody who can create products using technology, for example. So I hope that question got answered to some extent.
Here is a student, Shobha, who's asking this question, that the fact that we need to pay attention to our mental health and look for measures to be well, that's important, taking the first step. And probably it is one of the most difficult steps when starting something new. The fact that you should consciously go on the well-being journey. So how does one overcome this initial hesitation? Because a lot of us will enjoy this webinar today, and like they enjoyed the class that we did. But later on, people go back to their old habits. They still get stressed. They still come under tension. These students, half of them are currently tense. When will I get placed? Will I get my proper job or not? So they are living in the future, continuously. So even though they enjoy this, but then they forget the learning when it comes to applying it to their own selves. Many of our students go through this sort of, up and down. So how do you overcome this? How do you take the first step?
See, I think the first step is to make a commitment to yourself, and maybe make a commitment publicly to a few other people who you care about, or who care about you, right? That I am going to do this, right? And don't make an outlandish commitment that, now this has become my lifelong habit. Say that I am going to do it for the next 15 days, right? 5 minutes every day for the next 15 days. And then, if you slip in between, say, no worries, let me start again, right? So make a short-term commitment, public commitment, and say that I am not going to cheat myself, right? I am going to do this. And, don't say every day if you can't do every day. Just, okay, 5 times a week, 5 minutes, I will do this. The second is, there's a power in community, right? I think, it's called Sangha. So can you create a group of 5-10 people, maybe even 3 people? Because 2 people both can lapse, right? So I would say 3 to 4 to 5 people at least. And say that we are making a group commitment, right? So we'll do this together, right? And if somebody is slipping, the other person takes responsibility and said, hey, no, you made a commitment, you better come, right? Forget about 5 minutes is not much. And that's it. Science shows that it takes 40 days to make a habit. So when you do 15 days, then another 15 days, right? And then another 10, 15 days. And when you start seeing the benefit of something, you will automatically start doing it. So, the founder of the Art of Living Foundation, Gurudev Shri Ravi Shankar, says that, nobody likes discipline. But if you are able to be disciplined in the short term, right, few days, then it gives you freedom for the rest of your life, right? Like I practice every day, every single day. It doesn't matter where it is. 1 hour in the morning is I might miss it on a 1 or 2 or 3 days in a month. Once in a while you're traveling, something else happens. But once you realize its value, like do you brush your teeth every day? So why do you brush it? Because you're going to smell bad, right? So dental health is important. So make mental hygiene the way you have dental hygiene. I hope that helps.
Wonderful. One last question before we begin to summarize. There is an anonymous attendee who's saying, how can one deal with a situation where one has no control of the situation and yet it is negatively impacting the person? How to deal with it? Can't control it, but it is negatively impacting you.
Yeah. So this is obviously a very common situation, but the question is abstract. So I am going to give an abstract answer, but if the person wants to talk to me with a more specific input, I'll be happy to talk. See, the thing is, a lot of times we think it's an impossible situation. We can't control it, and we are at the receiving end. And that actually is not true most of the time. You can always make a difference. So figure out what are the different ways in which this could be done, right? For example, suppose you have a bad colleague who is always rude and who is not cooperating. This, I say, what can I do to change the person? Right? No, there are many things that you could do to change the person. Now, if none of those things work, right, and nothing will change immediately, like black will not become white in 1 second. It will require a bit of an effort, and you have to be tactful. You have to use different things. And if you truly believe that it is not going to change, right, and then I think Arunam said that, right, then you say, hey, if I am not going to be able to change, then just let it be, right? So, for example, if you live in Delhi and it's really 44, 45 degrees during, the summertime, you can't complain about the weather, right? If you want to change it, then you better go to Shimla or Bangalore or Pune. That's where the weather is going to be different. Yeah. So some things that can't be changed, then you accept it. But if it is too important for you, then you get out of the vicinity of that situation, that person, that thing.
Thank you, Aadesh. Would any of the panelists want to just give your summary of what you learned, or just a quick reaction to what you experienced this evening? Any one of the panelists?
Thank you, sir. It was really very nice, and it was really as Anil sir said, like I think we are like the dog's tail which cannot be flatbed at any moment of time, but I feel like we will try our level best to not take any stresses or not take out on the those things which are not even required. We just add on it, which takes up a lot of our headspace. So I feel I'm very much thankful to Soil, to Anil sir, and to Aadesh sir. Thank you. It was really nice listening from you, sir.
Aadesh, absolutely wonderful to have you. Here are the 5 things I learned from you this evening. 1, always have a sense of gratitude in your heart for what you have been given. You remember the role that Sam Petroda played. You remember the role that Mr. Sharma played in your life. And these 2 leaders, even today on Teachers' Day, you thank them. Then you talked about how, when you came together to be part of co-creation, you always created that sense of that we together have to raise our game. So there was that connection that you felt with people. And whether it was traveling with your colleague to General Motors and taking pride in when your leader said that, employees come first, that message, which sounded so much like an idealistic message at one level, but you genuinely believed in it and you co-created that kind of a culture with your organization. Number 3, you always have this very beautiful quality in you that whether you were CIO or you were CEO, for you, it was all a people business. And it was all about saying, what can I do to create a sense of connection, well-being, and enable people to realize their potential? So you always said, irrespective of whether you were working with the latest technology or whether you were leading the cutting edge sort of thing, you remember that people are at the very heart of that. Number 4, thanks to that wonderful accident of Vandana first getting exposed. But you know, your roots of Ramakrishna Mission were there. Your parents had already put that, even though as a young boy you were resisting it. But later on, in the right time, at the right place, when it appeared, and when you saw the teacher enter the room, something touched you deeply. You were not even aware of what was happening to you, but you became open. And the moment you became open, you invited the gift of self-discovery. And that has become a lifelong practice now for you. And not only did you enjoy the benefit of it yourself and became a better person, you believed in it so much that you took the risk of telling in a multinational company like Use Software to say, this is part of our 10-day induction program. The 3 days will be on art of living, and your business leaders from across the world supported you. So what a gift to give to everyone to be part of that. Last, I think there is always this desire in your part to say, what can I do every day to make a small difference? When you did a small exercise with us just now, even this opportunity to make a difference in this very 1 hour, you created that value. And then you are encouraging all of us today, don't make big plans that you then, say, oh, I made this plan and I couldn't do it. Begin with a small practice. So you were telling people, at least you can put 5 minutes in yourself every day. 5 minutes you can invest in your own well-being. Like there is dental health, there is mental health. So if you can brush your teeth for a few minutes, why can't you pay attention to your own mind for a few minutes? So what a wonderful message, Aadesh. So very nice to be in your presence today and to learn with you. Thank you very much. And thank you, fellow panelists. And next week, we are joined by the Vice Chairman and the CEO for the Manipal Group, Vaitishwaran, who is another wonderful colleague whom I had the opportunity to induct into iShare. And wonderful to have Vaiti with you next time. And we will continue the conversation and move from emotional well-being to the intellectual well-being with Vaitishwaran. So wonderful. Thank you very much, everybody, and take care and good night, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.